Hey everybody, Mike Miller with the Herald-Times, columnist Jeremy Price, back at it again at the Wells Fargo Arena, Des Moines, Iowa. Long weekend here.
Our home away from home.
Turning out that way. Cool city though, making the most of it. They really get into St. Patty's here.
Oh boy, do they ever.
I saw a guy, I'm not going to tell that story.
Yeah, the hotel lobby was frightening, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it was a party. We missed out on a big party, but we got to come here and talk IU Kentucky, which...
is a party in its own right.
Yeah, something like that. Really,
the bigger party is Saturday night.
Potentially, yeah. Indiana, Kentucky, 5:15 Eastern here at the Wells Fargo Arena. Just chatting with guys. Obviously, no one on either roster has been a part of this rivalry series. Obviously, having not played since the Sweet 16 in 2012. Kind of funny, really, to talk to guys on both sides about what it means to them, because frankly, I think there are 3 in-state guys on that Kentucky roster. The one we all heard from, Derek Willis, didn't care much for it. He claims to not know who Bob Knight is outside of the chair.
The guy that threw the chair.
He's like, that's all I have. That's all I know. That's okay.
Might want to brush up on your basketball history.
And obviously, so many other guys are from out of state. You know, just kind of brought into this Kentucky program. They were, I don't want to say dismissive of it. They said some of the right things. You know, they respect college basketball history, but you know, they don't really have a grasp on the rivalry. Meanwhile, in that IU locker room, you got guys like Colin Hartman, guys who grew up in this state, who watched these games. Ryan Burton, growing up right down the road in Bedford. I could tell, however, that some of these IU guys were kind of coached up beforehand to not say anything too inflammatory about the rivalry. They were all kind of sticking to the same talking points. But you could tell, obviously, there was a much greater understanding for this rivalry, what with those 6 in-state guys in that locker room, guys who kind of grew up and, frankly, felt maybe a little left out that they weren't able to be a part of it. I asked Colin Hartman about that today, just how that rivalry was discontinued a couple years before he arrived and missing out on that. And again, he was kind of guarded in what he said, but he said, yes and no. I mean, it's absolutely something you grew up watching, and you could tell that the history of Indiana, Kentucky really resonates a lot more with the IU guys than it does the Kentucky guys.
It does. But I would add, though, that odds are that if you're watching this, it means probably more to you
100 times
than it means to anybody in either one of those locker rooms at this point.
Yeah.
But I think it does mean a little bit more to the in-state guys for Indiana. And I spent a good deal of time talking to James Blackman Jr., and he probably has as good a grasp as anybody with his dad going to Kentucky and obviously committing to IU, decommitting, deciding between IU and Kentucky, and then sticking with IU. And yeah, he's mentioned he was disappointed that rivalry was discontinued as well. But I think it's a bigger deal maybe from the Indiana perspective, and then this gets into the whole issue of scheduling, I guess, a little bit as well. But Indiana doesn't have a lot of those big games on its schedule. Kentucky was kind of that feature game on the schedule, whereas for Kentucky, this year already they've seen Duke, they've seen UCLA, they've seen Louisville, they've seen Kansas. Okay, just add Indiana to the list. Not a real big deal. For Indiana, this, outside of the conference season with Michigan State, Purdue, that kind of thing, this is as big of an opponent as Indiana's seen all year.
Funny to read into John Calipari's comments about the rivalry, too. Before we talk actual game, maybe one more on this. Completely, still sticking to his guns. He actually brought up the fact that he was talking to Joe B. Hall at one point, and he was saying that, all the games used to be neutral floor. They used to play all the games in Indianapolis anyway, Indianapolis, Louisville, and I think John Calipari has a different version of history than most folks, but still refusing to acknowledge the possibility of a campus component to a possible future series. Both coaches said that the door is not necessarily closed on resuming the series, however, seems very unlikely at this point, just from both of their ends, both refusing to budge on their point. Tom Crean wants the campus component, Fred Glass wants the campus component, Mitch Barnhart, John Calipari definitely do not.
Yeah, I'm not sure they care that much. As Calipari sort of pointed out, they've got all these other arrangements set up. They're resuming the North Carolina series, I believe, next year. Mm-hmm. They've got a series lined up with Duke. They've got the SEC Big 12, which is almost inevitably going to pair them with Kansas for who knows how many years in a row, probably, because why wouldn't you? So I don't think UK misses it as much as IU does, but it's also still, it's a regional rivalry, and that's something that's while it may not be for the players and it may not be for the programs, it at least is something for the fans, which will finally get their fill Saturday night.
So enjoy this one. I think I certainly will. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. Just purely from on the court, this is going to be fascinating to watch. You can go position by position in this one. Probably just start with point guard. Yogi Ferrell, Tyler Ulis, without question, two of the top point guards on a very short list. Arguably two of the best. Whatever. I mean, you can throw Denzel in there. You can throw Dunn at Providence in the mix there. These two guys are on top of everything, and I think it's going to be fascinating to watch both of them go at it tomorrow. Both kind of deflecting attention from this matchup, probably predictably so.
Right.
Farrell not really wanting to get into the specifics of going one-on-one with Tyler Ulis, kind of deflecting things to his team in general. Funny, actually, heard Isaiah Briscoe. He was kind of, I don't know, there was a Kentucky guy talking to him about Yogi and saying, well, some people think he's kind of like Indiana's version of Ulis, and Briscoe kind of shot back pretty coldly. No, there's only one Tyler Ulis and plays on Kentucky. It was actually, honestly, with that, it was kind of interesting just to hear some of the comments from the Kentucky guys in general.
They're not lacking for confidence or swagger.
No, they, Briscoe said he knows nothing about Yogi Ferrell, didn't care to really know anything about Yogi Ferrell other than what he had to learn about Indiana on tape. A lot of people in that Kentucky dressing room were pretty dismissive, frankly, of both Yogi Ferrell and Indiana, which I find fascinating that you would kind of provide that kind of bulletin board stuff, a day before the game.
Yeah, it was interesting because, but I think that's exactly where they're looking at it from, and they've got a very high vantage point, I think, and are feel a little bit above this fray, and feel like you get the feeling they feel like everybody's making too much of this Indiana and Kentucky thing. What's the big deal kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably have a little more appreciation for that tomorrow, if for no other reason than the crowd that will be here at Wells Fargo Arena. I think will be obviously very loud and enthusiastic, but I think it's probably going to be pro-Indiana a little more than Kentucky, which they're probably not quite so used to as well. But when you get down to the matchups, it is some good matchups. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out for a lot of reasons in terms of talent and ability, and also just in terms of how this game is called and those kind of things, because that could really dictate a lot of things for both sides. If you get certain guys in foul trouble, obviously Indiana's a little thinner on the front court, and if either one of the point guards, Ulis or Farrell, get in foul trouble, it obviously changes the way both teams run their offenses dramatically.
And perhaps maybe more than any other game this season, this is where Indiana really needs to pick its spots. Obviously, we saw where they operated at such a high level against Chattanooga, offensively especially, on Thursday night. But this, obviously, when you look at the potential of driving in and dealing with those trees in front of the basket. I mean, they set the tournament record?
Set an NCAA tournament record, 15 blocks against Stony Brook.
So that's something to watch. I mean, it's something that absolutely has to happen, absolutely has to be there to kind of open up that perimeter for Indiana. But they really have to be mindful of when to kind of go for things, when to really, I think it just boils down to being in control. And, that we've seen a few guys on this team have spun out of control at times. And I think control really, in this matchup more than anything else, is probably the name of the game for Indiana. Yeah,
I think you talk about being under control. I think Troy Williams is number one on that list of guys that have to be under control in this game. This is a game he can make an impact in. This is a game where he's going to be among many other high-level athletes in this game, but he has to make good decisions. He can't force things, and he can't try to create stuff that's not there and get too excited and try to do too much. He's got to do it within the framework of the offense, and if he does, there's going to be opportunities for him, but he's going to have to be patient and find his openings. And I think that's true of everybody else as well, but I think he's number one on the pick your spots list.
Indiana certainly got off to a good start in this NCAA tournament. It's all obviously now whether they can maintain that, sustain that run they carried out at the second half of Chattanooga and propel that into Kentucky. We'll find out 5:15 Saturday afternoon. The rivalry, it's back on, at least for one night, here in Des Moines.
We'll be here.
We'll be here.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. I think Guy's got a shot.
I think so.
I think a pretty good shot.
I expect this game to come down to the last 3 or 4 minutes
really
either way.
Too.
So
yeah.
If it does, well, it'll be heartbreak for somebody. But it'll be fun.
The victor, you get to go to Philadelphia.
That's your spoils.
All right, guys. We'll see you.